All right, so let's take a deeper look at the setup call from the Inspired Sale class. So I know you've seen Marianne and Albert go through a role play, and you've gone through Marianne's presentation. I want to just do a little deeper dive on a couple of points that she brought up. First of all, where is the setup call? So the setup call is right at the beginning. The minute you get an appointment from an external source, maybe it comes from one of the digital lead generators, the call center booked an appointment, as soon as you see it, you want to get that setup call done as fast as possible. Why is that? Well, what is the main purpose of the setup call? When you think about it, what is the number one thing that you are trying to get done in a setup call? And it's not finding the address or making sure the time's right, although those things are important. It's not making sure all the decision makers are there, although that's important. What is the most important thing from a setup call? As Marianne likes to say, it's high energy, right? This is a date. You really want to create so much energy and so much excitement with the customer that the customer stops Googling other companies. That's the main point of the setup call. The setup call is not about, can I pre-qualify a customer, check their credit before I get there to see if they're going to qualify for financing. This isn't about you pre-screening a customer. That is completely different, and there's no place for it. We're not pre-screening the customer. This is a setup call to help the customer feel welcome, to feel like they should be excited to meet you. And you should be able to generate enough excitement and enough of a connection. I'm not going to say that they trust you yet. That's going too far. But you should be able to generate enough excitement about the project and about them meeting you that they quit Googling other companies. Now, you can't tell them, hey, stop Googling other people, but that just should be a natural result, right? So they are so excited to meet Arlen Brady that, you know what? I don't know if I'm going to buy from him or not, but hey, if he shows up and has a decent product at a reasonable price, let's just go with him because I'm tired of searching for other people online. And that's really what you want. All right, so let's dig into this setup call a little bit. First of all, I like the way Marianne puts it. We're going to start with a little warm up. Absolutely. We're going to introduce yourself and the company, right? Identify the scope of work, confirm the date, the time, the address, build excitement. That's all 100%. Okay. There's another question that I like to ask during the setup call, and that is, who referred you to Floor Coverings International? Well, why? Just stop for a second. Why is it that that's important? Who referred you to Floor Coverings International? And by the way, it has nothing to do with statistics or trying to figure out which one of your marketing channels is working. No, 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 it's not that. Suppose that I called you for a setup call and I said, hi, this is Arlen Brady with Floor Coverings International. I understand that we've got a bedroom and a bathroom that you're looking at redoing. Hey, before we dive into the details of the scope of work, you know, Floor Coverings International, we are primarily a word of mouth company. Most of my customers come from people that refer other people. Who do I have to thank for referring you to Floor Coverings International? Okay, now stop right there. What signal does that send to the customer? One, it sends to the customer that, wait a minute, even though maybe they found you online or maybe they found you through Angie or through 3Ships or some other lead generator online, all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, a lot of your business comes from word of mouth. You guys must be really good if you get a lot of referrals. The other thing that it does is it sets up, that customer knows that when this project is finished, you're going to be asking them for a referral. So I really like adding this question and just explaining to people, hey, look, a lot of our business comes from word of mouth for referrals. Who do I have to thank for referring you to Floor Coverings International? And many times they'll say, oh, I just found you online. Okay, that's fine. The reality is you probably know that already because you're looking at their lead record and it says they found you online. That's okay. Ask the question anyway and set yourself up for success around referral-based businesses. Set some expectations around the appointment, right? So what does it look like to be able to set expectations for the customer? And what does it mean to get others there needed for input? So I jumped the gun here, but I do have this written out for you. Floor Coverings International is a referral-based business. Most of our business comes through word of mouth. Who do I have to thank or who do I need to thank for sending you my way? People typically want to work with other people that have great reputations. and it sets that expectation that you're going to be asking for a referral later. All right, what about setting expectations for the appointment? So a typical appointment is going to take you 60 or 90 minutes in the home. There's appointments that I've been at that have taken 2 or 3 hours. That sounds like a lot of time. And if you call a customer and say, oh, I need an hour and a half in your house, are you good with that? Yeah, that sounds like you're going to be there a long time. But the reality is, this process actually saves the customer a lot of time. If you do any floor shopping, you'll realize you got to go to the store and get a sample, bring it back to your house. Now you're driving both ways. That one doesn't work. Go back, go to another store. I mean, you're driving all over town and spending hours and hours and a ton of gas money. The reality is that we are actually saving people a lot of time by coming into their home and bringing the mobile showroom samples. But people don't think of it that way. They just see, oh, you're going to be in my house for an hour and a half. So if you tell the customer, hey, I'm going to be in your house for an hour and a half, they're likely going to react negatively. So you want to frame the expectation so the customer sees the benefit to them. So one way that you could do this, and by the way, this is of course not word for word, but this is one way that you might say it. Hey, often my customers like to take their time to look at samples and make sure that they're picking the right colors and designs. You know, I normally block off about an hour and a half so that I'm not rushing people. Does that work for you? Okay, so it sounds like what you're doing is you're carving time out of the schedule to make room for them rather than them having to set aside an hour and a half for you. So when you're setting expectations, just look at it from the perspective of the customer. One other piece of the puzzle that I really want to dive into is decision makers. And this word decision makers, asking if all the decision makers there can be perceived as being insulting. So you're talking to one partner and you say, hey, are all the decision makers going to be there? And that partner gets offended because it's like, wait a minute, are you saying that I can't make the decision? All right, that's one piece of the puzzle. The other piece of the puzzle is if you ask, hey, are all the decision makers going to be there? Yeah, you know what? We're not making a decision today. We just want a quote. All right, you know in the back of your mind, you know in your back pocket that you're going to be asking for a sale when you're there. If they're setting it up so that they just want to get a quote, why would they need to have all the decision makers there? So I prefer to not use the words decision makers. We can talk about decision makers amongst ourselves, but when I'm talking to the customer, I tend to use the word input, people who want to have input. So I might ask this question this way. Is there anyone else that you would like to have at our appointment that would want to have input or have questions about the color, style, design, price, or the way that we're going to install your project? And would they be available during this time? So what does this do? In the first way, typically when we talk about decision makers, people normally think of a spouse or a loved one. In this case, who would a customer might want to have input from? Well, it might be a sister or a brother. It might be that they want their niece. It might be that they want an interior designer to be there with them. It opens the door for whoever it is that they want to be at the appointment to be at the appointment. Again, it's not about you getting all the people there so that you can make a sale. It's about the customer having the people there so that they can have a great experience. So these are just the things that I wanted to sort of dive into a little bit deeper. I hope you found this useful. Thank you for watching it, and I look forward to seeing you in the next module.